Awesome. So we were kind of just doing a light intro. We talked a little bit about your chooser, how you can get some different little interfaces, some different pieces of the puzzle. I'd like to hear from you guys for just briefly like some of your comments, and then we're going to start into kind of sales and inventory tracking, okay? So be switching your minds over just a little bit, but does anybody have any comments on what we were doing this morning as far as the different pieces of the puzzle that we were talking about, whether it was from your chooser or whatever's going on?
I like, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Search, to quick search.
Okay.
You have your CRM kind of homepage.
Yes,
set
yes.
up, and that's how I use it too. But usually there's a quick search where it says clock out online.
Okay, correct. So which interface do you normally use? The
I
CRM?
use the CRM.
Okay.
Which is awesome about that is all I have to do is snap a name in there, and it will tell me if it's in the system or not. You know, this way I can say, all right, somebody's already working this account, or go ahead and enter it in.
Boom, just immediately.
Yeah.
Because your homepage has a little built-in one, the difference here is you can see how this one says client, which is basically your customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same as going right here. The difference between the quick search that's on every page versus this one is this one allows you to flip-flop to the different groups, okay? But yours, because you're using this particular interface, as soon as you hit home, your cursor is already blinking there. I haven't clicked anything, and you're immediately like, GPS, what have I got? You know, whatever. So like that kind of thing.
It's just awesome. I mean, it just makes life so much easier to be able to, you know,
Kind of quick.
quick search to make sure that, you know, we're not stepping on anybody's toes, and, you know, whose account that is, and, you know, if it's even in the system. If it's not going to pop up.
Okay, cool. I love it. Cheryl, you had a comment.
Well, I was just going to say, I know you said you could change corporate settings, but when I visually could see that schoolroom and all of a sudden it was teachers and students, all of a sudden I went, oh, I get it,
Yeah.
type of a thing.
That really kind of helps bring it home. Like even when we changed to pupil and we did a search and like, oh my goodness, look at the word pupil 50 million different times. It literally does cascade all over the place. And so that makes it really good like that. Any other comments at all? Nick, can I call on you? What was your comment this morning, just in general, as far as like what you saw, or you just kind of an introduction?
You know, it's always easier to sit and watch than it is the first time you sit down and do it.
True story.
And I remember the first time I went into Microsoft Office, I was trying to make it complicated, and all of a sudden I was going, well, it can't be that easy, and Gates, he did really make it that easy. And I got really frustrated because I wanted to do something, and so I'm old enough that I loved where it was, and then he came out with his latest version, and he made, there's 8 different pages that you have to flip for back and forth, and it's like, I liked everything on one page and all of the icons at the top, and once you get back to being a power user, you know that if you're doing this, you have to go to this one, and I see that here is you just have to realize that you're not going to get everything on one page when you first open it, but you can get things to one page. If this old dog's going to learn a trick, he's still going to get it back to one page to use, as opposed to having to open several pages to get there.
Sure.
It looks so easy now, but I know that on Friday when I go back to my office and I sit down and open it up, there's so many choices. Even when you look right there, you've got 6 choices next to home.
Correct.
And it just takes a while to go, okay, home gets me here, chooser gets me here, print, help, back, switch.
Yep.
There's nothing short of spending some time with it to get there. And
help us.
Yeah,
help us
get it, yeah.
We
like
it's
help.
all, I think Bill Gates really did set it up, and then, Apple come along and made some things, easier as well. But there's just nothing short of spending some time and getting comfortable. So,
Awesome. I love it. I've got a black bar on my screen. I think it's just kind of a page refresh issue thing, so I'm actually going to close my browser for just a second, and I'm going to see if I can come back in so that we don't have this big giant black bar on the top. Joe, do you have any comments on this morning's session?
For me, it's all review, which is all very good. I'm ready to go, ready to move on.
Okay, perfect. James, Paul, you guys have anything? Okay.
This has been a lot more insightful. Watching the webinars online, you can do stuff and follow along as best as possible. Live action is always the best.
Oh, I like it for sure that way as well.
It's a
So
lot more of an experience.
no problem. We're just going to kind of quickly jump in here and make sure that we have the pieces of the puzzle set.
Okay, Brandon, can I ask you?
Yes, go ahead.
What does CRM homepage mean? What does that stand for?
CRM is Customer Relationship Management, okay? So
Okay.
your CRM, that's basically like, who's your customer? What are you logging about them? What do you need to know about them? How quick was the sale? Are they still sitting out in left field? Like, you're basically trying to keep track of what's going on with your customers. Well, that's what teachers do with their students, okay? They're basically doing CRM, but instead of it being trying to make the sale, they're trying to make them make the grade. So they're basically using CRM functionality. There's tons and tons of little acronyms. Watch this right here. This might help you just a little bit. There's tons and tons of acronyms. POS, point of sale. CRM, customer relationship management. CMS, your content management systems. Your BI is your business intelligence, et cetera, et cetera. Right? Business is constantly making acronyms. What it is because they're just trying to shorten things down, but that might help you a little bit as far as what it physically means. Awesome. What I'm going to do is I'm just trying to get some of my pieces back up to play here so that I have my reference pieces in line. This is a little photo gallery that I like to use for teaching, so I needed it up. The other thing that I'm doing, you guys already might know how to do this, but you can open things in new windows or new tabs at any point in time, and what it does is it allows you to get to your next little pieces of the puzzle. So what I'm doing on some of these different little pieces is I'm actually trying to reload my page because I had to close my browser down, and I'll just let you watch me, but basically I like to use the map often when we're teaching, and so I'm just going to kind of pull it into place, and then I'm slowly just kind of opening up new tabs, if you will, so that I have different places so that I can jump at any point in time with no problem. So now I'm basically ready to kind of go again. Okay, so I imagine some of you guys probably want to follow along, huh? Alrighty. Cheerio, get ready. We are going to do I'm going to log out, and I'm going to log back in. And you guys can do this as well, okay? It's very simple. It's Adilas Demo, ADILASDEMO. On the password, it is 1234, and we're going to hit log in. Cheerio, what's a fun little site that we could go in and play with? Our goal is basically to talk about sales, inventory tracking, so we're going to be doing POs and invoices, and what are our widgets? We have a tree service, a bookstore, an antique store, an airport, a nursery, I'm not sure, a liquor store, kind of a restaurant, some fireworks shop. These are just funny little play sites, if you will, okay? There's a fly shop. We can deal with houses, fishing stuff, like a lounge, an energy drink one. There's a whole bunch of different little pieces of the puzzle. Why don't you see if you can pick one, and we will go in there and kind of play.
I got one that, if you don't mind sharing. There's a brand new one in there that's
Okay.
the grow that has nothing in it.
Okay, and which one is that? What's the name of it?
Horticultural or grow or
There's a Greenway, hydroponic, and grow shop.
That's it right there. Yeah.
Greenway hydroponic, okay.
Okay, great. We'll just go into this
It
one.
says there's nothing in there.
Okay.
That's be kind of cool to.
So if I wanted to see what was in here, here's where I would go to kind of be like, show me in a nutshell what I have, okay? I would go here. It currently looks like my interface is classic homepage. Are you guys okay with this, or do you want me to switch to a different interface? Okay, if I was going to check everything in a nutshell, I would go like this. Click here, go immediately to my history homepage, hit go, and it basically kind of says, hey, here's what I've got going. it basically shows that there is nothing going on here, okay? And you can expand it out if you needed to. Say you wanted to say, hey, what do I have from 1-1 to, what's today, 10-22? What have I got? Go. It's still just teeny nothing, okay? So basically we don't have anything. When you say, hey, I have nothing, you technically do have a couple small things. By default, everybody gets an Adilas vendor, because we assume at some point you're probably going to pay us. So. Okay, those are just kind of some defaults. An employee user probably just has the Adilas demo user, so there's not really a whole bunch of us. Do you guys want to set yourselves up as users, kind of as the first task? Okay. Here's the difference. If you're going to set yourself up as a user, it's not a big deal. But what we can do is we can then say, oh, that was so-and-so, like as we're playing in this type of thing. And so we'll just go from there. Here's what we're going to do. Go ahead and just click on the user that was on that page, and it's the same way that it'll get you to the permission homepage. In order to add somebody new, you need to do an add and a search. Okay, so you click on this little feature, and it'll say, hey, who's going to be coming in here? And then you type in part of your either last name or first name or whatever you wanted to do if you wanted to create yourself as a new user. So I'm just going to click and say Brandon.
I've already lost mine.
You've already lost your what?
I've already lost what page I'm on.
Okay,
So you were
watch
at
this.
the,
Let's go like this. Like I came from the history homepage, tons of ways around. Let's go back to the classic homepage. From here, we're going to go under System Management. We're going to go Add, Edit, Pages, and Permissions, and go.
Okay.
Okay, so because this is a play site, I'm just going to add myself in. I'm going to say Search and Add, and I'm going to go ahead and just type in my last name. Say, hey, what do I have under this? I don't have anything, so I'm going to say Add, and I'm going to start popping through here. Anything that has an asterisk is required. Anything that doesn't is okay. And so I'm basically going to be creating myself a new username. So I'm going to kind of create. I'm going to go Brandon M. And my email is and my password is and somebody else wants to do it, it doesn't matter. This is basically just for fun. I'm going to go 6789.
And another side note, with the asterisks, if it's like address or zip code, you can just put 0000.
Correct.
If you don't know it or if you don't want it. And that kind of, you can always go back and change it later.
The one caution on that is garbage in equals garbage out. So if you go to pull a report, you're going to have 0000 for your address. So just have to realize that. Okay, and I'm just going to pop down. Make sure you select your time zone. I'm going to be under Mountain Time. And now you have a chance to do tons and tons of different permissions. If you guys are okay, we're going to turn on a bunch of permissions in here. Now tell me a little bit about this grow. What are we actually doing and making and building and like just in general?
Add an inventory and it's a storefront.
Okay, great. And this particular grow, is this specific to the medical marijuana industry or is it just generic?
It's generic. It's basically, you can buy dirt and tomatoes and seeds and lights. And
Okay, great.
So
That's
like
perfect.
a nursery.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Love it. Okay, so if you guys are okay, let's go ahead and pop through here and we'll just talk permissions for just a second, okay? I'm going to click on number 3, which is basically my parts, okay? Eventually, we might want a barcode, so I'm going to click on that. That's number 4. So here's something that's kind of important, just so you know. You'll notice here, watch this. I'm going to actually open up one more little page. And you guys don't have to do this, but this is just for education. I'm going to actually just open up a new little page. If I go to my classic homepage, can you see how this one says System Search? Well, basically the quick search, the System Basics, the System Time and Request. You can see how it's broken into these pieces. When you're in your permissions, this is actually how it's built, okay? So your System Search, what do you actually want in this portion of the puzzle, okay? what do you want as a quick search option? So that's why I was like, you know what, we're not even going to be dealing with stock units. Those are big ticket items. We're going to come down and we're going to say, I do want my grow items. I do want my barcode. I do want PO and invoices and expense and deposits and quotes. I do want to be able to search checks probably eventually. Recipe and builds, flex grids. We're going to probably skip balance sheet items right now. That's you can see it's a different color. It's a little bit more admin-ish. Okay. I'm going to go vendors.
So Brandon, at the top, you can click the
colors. Correct. So if you wanted to pre-select a few of these, you can go give me all the yellows, all the greens. Go do it.
Then you can go subtract.
Then you can subtract if you need to. That's correct. So I am going to subtract number 2. We don't necessarily want to be able to search stock units. And then I'm just scrolling down. We basically are going to have almost everything clicked on the quick search for us setting ourselves up. Let's go down to the next section, which is system basics. Now, I would imagine that if you have a grow, this silver permission you do want. Do I want just a quick retail ticket? What's the difference between a quick cart versus start new cart? What would potentially be the difference there? One of them says, if I click on quick retail cart, it immediately gives me a cart. I don't have any customer assigned, and it's just assuming that I'm in almost a non-customer mode, okay? Just a quick counter sale, okay? The start cart says, ooh, am I going to be transferring? Am I going to be doing internal? Am I going to be doing a customer one? It kind of has more options. So I'd say we wanted both of those guys. So I'm going to go like this, 18, 19, 20, my cart favorites. We're going to skip these smart groups for right now. We might come back. Let's go 23. We're going to do customer logs, my quotes. We'll do clock in and out, my hours, my history, password and profile. This is how you can change your username and password. And these are some just fun little calculators like profit and discount, loan calculators. They don't hurt anything. They're kind of the green scenario. Let's scroll down to the next section. I'm on permission number 33 right now. System time and request. For us, for all of us in this class, let's go ahead and select 35 as well. Okay? Skip the next two. These are check requests. Sherry O, can I actually ask you really quick, what's the difference between a check request and an expense receipt? Kind of goes way back.
You have permission to be able to write out that check and pay that expense.
Okay, correct. So if we have just smaller businesses and they don't have external offices that are looking for approval, we actually prefer them not to go to the check request level just because it requires an additional step, if you will. Okay? So a check request and an expense receipt are literally the exact same thing. The only difference is if you just have check request ability, you get to create it, but you don't actually get to assign the payment until it gets approved. So it's an additional step of the process. So we're going to skip the check requests. Come on down. Number 38 is your power piece. This, of all of the pieces in the entire system, this particular one will give you more insighted information than anything else. It is purple, which kind of says, hey, you're kind of at the accounting above manager level. Like this gives you the ability to look at a lot of stuff. Okay? You can see right here that instead of saying parts, they've already changed some settings. It says grow items. So anywhere you see grow items, it's basically going to be considered parts. Okay? We do want the admin capability because we're going to want to add permissions and settings and like kind of categories. Okay, 41 we do not need. 42 we do not need. Those are tied to stock units. Okay? Sales and profit report? Yes, go ahead.
Stock units, I mean, what does that mean? I guess I've never read it. If I'm stocking on my shelves, wouldn't I need that stock?
Okay, that's a good question. What you literally have here, Santiago, is this, okay? They're literally different groups, okay? What happens is this is your parts and general inventory, okay?
So that's what's going to be on the shelf.
Correct, okay? Your stock units, this is a whole nother category. See how it's on its own little vein?
Yeah.
Your stock units, this is huge ticket items. Basically the difference is non-serialized versus serialized, okay? So if you have something that's...
Yeah, but like a car.
Yes, yes. Car, houses, jewelry, firearms. Those are all serialized units, okay? What it is this is your big ticket items, and usually your big ticket items, they want to be able to track specifically, okay? This is your dime a dozen or like just general generics
Okay.
and or your labors or so. So kind of like, let's go like this. These are just your cents. Not really, like you could literally have, you could sell printers and projectors, and that's still kind of your general inventory versus a serialized piece that you, serialized is one by one, okay? And it's unique. And this, can't spit it out. Your generic pieces, that's just like, I've got 20 of them, I've got 50 of them, I've got 100 of them, okay? That's generic, okay, or general. That's your difference. Okay, great. We're back at permissions. Let me just alt-tab back to where we were at. Okay, so we were basically talking right here under number 43. I would recommend that for us, we turn that one on. I recommend that we turn bank balancing on. Income statement. We can turn on balance sheet right now, that's fine, but we're not even going to really go into it. And advanced all searches, we're going to skip that. And we currently don't have anything under the custom level, so we're going to leave that one empty. Go ahead and scroll on down. We're now under system assets. Just so you can see where we're at, watch this, okay? We went through quick search, we went through system basics, we went through time. Guess what we're at right now, okay? System assets. Here we go. System assets, basic quotes, yes, invoices. For us, in this training class, we're going to go ahead and say admin invoices, recipe and bills. We're going to go ahead and turn on all of these. Number 55, we're going to skip. This one basically needs, it's special, okay? 55 and 56, this deals with your transitional invoices. This is kind of like, what are your work orders or your, here's what it kind of is. Do you want to do layaways, your work in progresses, your work orders, it's quasi stuff, okay? Yeah. Santiago, please keep asking every question in the book. It's awesome.
So you know the whole new e-commerce piece that we have, right?
Correct.
The cool functionalities we're able to put them on the account.
Okay, correct.
It's part of that whole account.
Okay, that's a good question. On account is different than a work order or a work in progress or a layaway, okay? What it is it literally deals with the amount of time, and am I trying to collect taxes on this thing yet, or is it just kind of like, it's just sitting on my shelf and it's kind of sort of happening, but it's not really solid. So what this is kind of funny, and you might actually get a kick out of this, but the default for the transitional invoice is basically what we call, I'm going to pull my marker out and it may help for just a quick second. So you have a quote, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have an invoice. And what's the difference between the two?
One's actually paid for.
Okay, you start collecting monies, you start really doing things. This is just like, hey, I want something.
Mm-hmm.
So this transitional invoice right here, it actually goes right here, okay? It's beyond the quote because I'm starting to commit to it, okay? But it's not totally to this level yet. I don't want to pay sales tax on it. I don't know if it's really in my receivables, but I am starting to collect monies on it, and I may or may not have all the product for it yet. So it's like, it's kind of in the middle. So this transitional invoice, this is kind of funny, but we basically called it like this, QT for transitional I, like a cutie, okay? QTI, it's kind of your transitional invoice. It's in between a quote and an invoice. So that's where we get some of the nomenclature or naming of that.
Is that your name for it? QTI, quick search?
So correct. So basically when you actually name your physical thing, like in the permissions and settings, you actually get to change that. I realize I'm jumping between pages. Watch this for just a quick second, okay? If I go here and I go to my corp admin and I jump in here, this is where you actually get to name the thing, okay? And I'm just going to actually just do a quick search for transition once my page comes up. So Control F. Okay, here's my customer invoice, and right below it this is the little piece that I was talking about, okay? You can actually call it work in progress, work order, whatever, but like our default is QTI because it's between a quote, transition, and an invoice, okay? Just for fun, but like basically it's your layaway, and the reason it is, and Mick, you could probably validate this as well, but your accounting gets a little bit specific. Your invoice automatically goes to what's called your P&L, your profit and loss statement, okay? If you have a layaway or a transitional thing or a work order, you actually have to store that on the balance sheet for a little bit because it's not all the way fully, you don't want to claim that as revenue yet because it hasn't really happened, okay? So like what you do is you're like, oh my goodness, I have stuff and I need to record it. You switch gears and it's recorded on a different section for a minute. That's the long and the short of it, but that's a transitional invoice. So right now I said we are not going to have 55 and 56, the transitional pieces, okay? Now this is a negative one, and for us, we actually don't want to do it, but sometimes some store owners do want this for their salespersons. They may want to hide costs. And if they do, they would actually select that. For us, we're going to say no. Advanced add to cart. What does advanced add to cart do? Who could tell me that? This is a very, very powerful one, actually.
Make up buttons.
Okay, buttons.
Popular products for that user.
Okay, correct. So the advanced add to cart opens up tons of options. In general, if you were going to add something, it was just like search for labor, and you say quantity of 2, add it. And then it pulls it into the cart, whatever the defaults were. The advanced add to cart allows you to tweak the settings. How many, how much, what's the description, what's the text category, it allows you to even back into values, and certain people actually do that a bunch. So say for instance you were running a sale and it was like, hey, or somebody comes in and says, hey, if we're dealing with a grow, I want to buy $25 worth of dirt, okay? And you know that dirt is so much per pound. The advanced add to cart, you could actually say, cool, I have an unknown quantity, I have a known cost that it's this much per pound, and the person has 25 bucks. Go tell me how many pounds I can get him, and it'll reverse the math for you and say, oh, you need to sell him 5.7 pounds of dirt, or the 20-some bucks, okay? So that's what advanced add to cart allows you to. If you have unknown variables, or if you want more control, but I highly recommend it as an option.
And if you wouldn't mind, can we circle back and touch on that? Because in the grow, in the R&D and J industry, that's huge when somebody walks in with just $20 and says, you know, this is all I can afford.
Okay.
You don't want to turn them away.
Okay, correct. So what it does is it kind of helps you do the reverse math.
Yeah.
Do you know the quantity that you're trying to sell and you're trying to get to an end dollar? Or do you know the dollar per and you're trying to get to a quantity?
Per, and then this is how much it usually is.
Okay.
With that $20, you're only going to get, you know, 3.1 or something.
Okay, correct. We will circle around on it. Remind me on that, okay? Cool. Let's go ahead and come on down. Go ahead and skip a couple of these next ones. These ones that deal with stock units as well, like the wholesale cart builder and the cross-corp sales. We're going to go ahead and say, yes, let's allow ourselves some deposit permissions. Go ahead and do 63. Go ahead and turn it on. Receivables, we'll go ahead and turn on our receivables. Now, these are accounting terms. What is a receivable, really quick? Who could tell me what a receivable is? David, you do receivables all the time. What is a receivable?
Receivable is where money coming in.
Okay.
What's money coming in with client.
Somebody owes you money, and then it either trickles in or it comes in all in a group, or they're trying to pay off multiple pieces. It's money coming in from clients or for what you invoiced out. Okay? Awesome. Good job. Okay, we're going to keep coming on down here. Let's go ahead and turn on number 67. We're going to skip reoccurring invoices. I don't think we're going to have that going on in our grow right this second. Number 68, turn that one off. And the whole rest of them on this section we're going to leave off. These are all dealing with stock units. Stock units is actually where we started, and it's actually a huge piece of the puzzle. But a lot of people, unless they need it, they don't even touch it and play with it. But it literally probably is one of the biggest pieces inside of our system, is stock units. We're going to skip all of these different pieces of the puzzle. We're now going to system liabilities. Once again, so you can see where we're at. Look at this. On the classic homepage, system liabilities, okay? This is the list that we're basically building here, right here in this part of the permissions. So basic expenses, let's go ahead and turn on our admin. We'll go through POs. Now POs have a number of different things. For a garden industry, I would imagine you'll do a lot of internal builds, okay? So say for instance like this, hey, I'm going to grab a bunch of flowers from here, I'm going to grab a vase and a basket and a this, and I'm going to put it all together, and you're going to get a little package deal that's my Easter baskets or something, okay? I would imagine we'll be doing some internal build POs as well. Special POs, This has been,
So, what we're-
yes, yes.
I'm sorry, recipe builds and internal builds are totally different.
Okay, they are different. The difference is one is a permission to create the recipe.
Okay.
The internal build says, do I have the permission to do it on the building side on the PO? Okay. Recipe and build, which is down just a little bit further, like literally where we already passed that little section, but there's two pieces of the puzzle here. And let me just switch here for just a quick second, see if they even have anything turned on. Okay. So your recipe and builds, what goes on is basically I recommend you read this help file. There's two different flavors, okay? You have one that's called a build and hold, and you also have another one that's called a build and sell, which is right up here, okay? There's build and sell and build and hold. They play on different pieces of the puzzle. The build and sell is on your invoice side and your quote side. What are my kits? What am I trying to sell, okay? Your build and hold is what am I miniature manufacturing, okay? What am I doing?
And that's under recipe, because we talked about that a lot when we're talking to clients.
Correct. So they're technically different. This guy here deals on invoice side, the build and sell, okay? The build and hold is on the PO side because it's managing your inventory. So literally what you have going on here is this is your general inventory pool, your POs build and stack, your invoices pull and send, okay? But you can still use recipe and build in this whole process. Am I building and manufacturing, or am I just selling things that are all together? So that they play on both sides of the fence there, okay? Perfect. Okay, so we're back here at the permissions. Number 80. Shannon, what's the difference between a special PO and a generic PO?
When you're using different vendors or mixed vendors.
Okay, correct.
So, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Continue. So if you were bringing in something from a lot of different vendors that you were selling out generically, you could use a special PO, because then you set it up so that you build all your inventory. Say it was a candy bar, you bought Snickers, but you bought it from 5 different stores whenever they had sales. Then you could switch it and bring it all into Snickers, and it would build just your Snickers inventory pool. But you could assign it to the specific vendor that you purchased it from.
So if we're going to be doing grows, check this out. We're going to probably be setting up a bunch of pieces as generic inventory.
Under
Bark and like under ourselves, like we're going to have bark and dirt and chips and whatever we're going to have. Like those are generics. We don't say, oh, that bark is the Aspen Highlands bark, like unless it specifically is. And if it is, then it would be vendor specific versus kind of a generic. Let's go get you a couple pounds of bark chips or something like that, you know, like mulch or something. Is it generic or is it vendor specific? And I know that we're not really building these things yet, but I'm just trying to show you these settings so that we can kind of figure them out. I would say that we most definitely are going to be using some special POs. And the difference there is you can kind of create the generic pieces. Okay? We're going to go ahead and say purchase order admin. We're going to turn on our payables. Here's another accounting term. Mick, can I call on you? What is a payable?
Money owed at some point in the future.
Money owed at some point in the future by our company. It could be that we owe for a reimbursement, something that was on account. It could be that somebody gave us some inventory and we have to pay for our inventory, okay? Money that is owed at some future time. So there's that element of time. Here's the interesting piece of the puzzle, okay? Watch this. Your AP, accounts payable, we call it a vendor waiting room, okay? Which is basically some sort of vendor is needing a payment. The exact opposite is this, your ARs or your accounts receivable, some sort of customer owes you. They both deal with time. Just depends on, is it coming in from this, is it feeding the system, or is it feeding the system in this direction? Kind of depends on what's happening, okay? Perfect. Okay, so we're going to pop down through here. Number 84, this deals with stock units. Number 85 deals with stock units. This is like slush fund money, like you can buy high and sell low, and like you can basically virtually move money around. It's fake money. It's called a slush account. But basically, for stock units, that's very common. David would go to the auction and buy something that was a steal of a deal, and he's like, oh my goodness, I just got this one for, $10,000 under market value. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add some money onto that and take some, like, it's slush fund account, okay? It deals with stock units. It's funny money, but you're you're doing, we call it the manager's checkbook, but basically it allows you to attribute phantom costs to different pieces of the puzzle. Especially
with the auto industry.
Oh, auto industries do that all the time. Anybody who's dealing with the big serialized pieces, they may or may not be moving some of that money around. It gets a little bit complicated, but that's what it is. It's basically like, ooh, if I have this, and then I can pay a permission. Like, say you have a thing that's on your lot, and it's been there forever, and it's aging out, and you pay tons of interest. You're like, man, I need to lower that thing, okay? So basically, you could basically say, hey, I'm going to adjust that cost, kind of pull it down so it makes it look like it has more value, and I'm going to attribute it over here to this other unit, let it hold it. It's kind of a, you're kind of saying, I'm going to rob Peter to pay Paul, but it totally deals with like the commissions you end up paying and what the virtual cost of those units are. It's slush fund. It's what they do in that industry. So, okay, cool. So we're going to come down. We're going to leave the manager's time clock alone. Do you guys want to do anything with admin time clock or payroll or anything?
Maybe
I'd say probably.
Maybe on Thursday.
Okay.
Isn't that payroll day?
That is,
Yeah.
for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn a couple of these pieces on just so we can play with them. We're just kind of still popping through the permissions. Okay, the next one is called system maintenance. And once again, I'm going to just pop in here so you can see which one this is going to be building, okay? System maintenance. This deals with all kinds of cool stuff, okay? So let's talk system maintenance for a second. Photo management. We currently have 12 main players, okay? This is kind of exciting. Photo management allows you to do you want to add stuff to your customers, your expenses, your parts and widgets, your stock units, and all that kind of stuff. We are building a new one right now for Elements of Time, and it's probably about 3/4 of the way done, and so it's kind of cool. Did you have a question?
Oh, no.
Okay, no problem. I know that we're right in the middle of permissions. You guys are like, just get through with this. I'm trying to kind of help so you know what the pieces are. Who can tell me what our main pieces of the puzzle are? I might want to actually go right here just for fun. Which of these pieces are our main groups? What do you think? So here's a whole bunch of stuff listed on our screen here. What's a main group?
Customers.
Customers, absolutely. Okay.
Invoices.
Invoices. What's another main group?
Parts.
Okay, I heard parts, perfectly. I heard vendors.
Expenses,
I heard expenses.
deposits.
I heard deposits. I heard users, perfect. Okay, what's another, there's 12 of them. Let's see if we can get 12.
Purchase orders.
Okay, POs and purchase orders, perfect, okay. What's another one? Actually, banks is not. Banks is a connector between those two, okay? It is not one of our main pieces. And FlexGrid is not a main piece, but it connects pieces together. What might else? Stock units, we were talking about that. That's our serialized inventory. Okay. Elements of time, perfectly.
Balance sheet.
Okay, balance sheet items and quotes. Okay, so basically you can see that this particular graphic is really trying to say, hey, here's our 12 basic pieces. Okay, and each one kind of connects in different ways to how things are organized. Okay. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just show you one other small graphic, and then we're going to switch right back to our permissions. We will do a lot of training right here in this same entity, but it's a little harder to show the same things. They're still here, okay? Expenses and deposits and POs and stock units and our parts, invoices and quotes and customers, elements of time. They're just kind of a little bit more spread out. But this particular graphic is very good for showing flow as far as like where does it come in and how does it work and how does it interact. But our main 12 pieces, we're going to kind of be heading towards this type of an interface, so it makes it a little bit easier to tell what the main 12 pieces are. Okay? Awesome. So we turn this on. Basically what I was trying to tell you is that we currently have 7 of the 12 that have photo galleries. We are going to be adding the other 5 to have photo galleries to those, hopefully by the end of the year. That's kind of our goal on that. So that'll be fun. Okay, FlexGrid stuff. Let's go ahead and add this. Just as we're kind of doing it, who can give me a light, what the heck is FlexGrid?
It's a piggyback on top of something that you want to be able to identify, search. And kind of what John knows is it's a little brother to the big brother's duty, I guess we'd say.
Correct. That's great. That's awesome. And so sometimes this kind of scares people. They're like, what in the heck is the flex grid? The flex grid is basically all those 12 players that we just decided. We're like, you know what, they might need additional information. They might need a piggyback system. Or what if you wanted to just add extra notes for one of those things? Say you were in vendors and you're like, oh my goodness, I got to make sure and put a note to this vendor that like, don't ever call and talk to Peggy because she will scream at you. Like, that's just internal, but what you would do is you would say, okay, that vendor, I need to add just a teeny little piece of flex grid and I'm going to record a note. Don't talk to Peggy. Always ask for Jenny or whatever, you know, like that's internal to your system, but you're, just like Santiago said, you're kind of piggybacking those little things together. Another thing that's really cool about the flex grid is you can connect things. So if you're like, hey, we used to deal with vendor XYZ, but now I'd really like you to deal with vendor ABC. You could actually connect the two and create a full circle so that you're like, oh, if I land on this one, it automatically says, hey, go over here and see this one. It can help you out in those ways. We will deal with more of this on day 2, dealing with the flex grid and stuff, okay? So let's scroll on down. I'm on 92 right now. We're going to say add edit customers. I'm going to skip 93. That is the limited one. For us, because we're in the training class, let's go ahead and turn on the admin customer one. And we're going to turn on the vendors, the expense types and deposit types. These are basically your virtual buckets. How are you going to categorize your expenses? Is it payroll and wages, or is it fees, or is it whatever? Those are some of the different ways that you create your buckets. Okay, we're going to skip a whole bunch of these next ones right now. We may come back to them. Let's skip the find and replace. Let's go ahead and turn on this items markup, number 99. We'll see if we can show you this. What this allows you to do is you can alter price in bulk. Okay, cost is set by how you bought it and brought it into the system. Your price is negotiable, so you're able to kind of flip-flop that wherever you want it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and come on down. Are we planning on taking this Grow entity to web and e-commerce?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Make sure you turn on 101, Manage Web Inventory. Okay. We do not need makes and models. These are tied to stock units. We're going to skip them. We're going to come on down to 104, which is Add Edit Banks. And for us in this admin area, we're going to say yes. Let's go ahead and do that. Add Edit Departments. This deals with payroll. And Add Edit Locations. How many locations or how many different. And even in a Grow, you may end up having multiple locations. Even though they're physically all on one little block or area, you might have flower, vegetation, harvest, retail. Like you might have multiple different spots. You might be like, oh, what do I have over here in my seedlings? You might want to physically call that a different location. And then as they mature, you might want to actually say, okay, you're now over here in this next little area. So even though it's not physically a location like Montrose, Colorado versus Salida, Colorado versus Pueblo, Colorado, those are physical locations. You might have virtual little almost cost centers or departments or whatever inside your system. Okay? So let's go a little bit lower. We've got one last little piece of the puzzle, and just so you can see where this is, system management. Okay? This one kind of deals with your power, like who has the power to do it. Because we are in a training class, I'm going to recommend that we go 107 and 108, which is add, edit, payees, and permissions, and can I manage the settings for this particular corporation. Okay? The rest of these are all admin ones that we will deal with later if we need them. I'm going to say no for right now. I'm going to go ahead and say add the payee. And it's giving me a reminder, hey, if you're going to use the time clock, eventually you're going to want to set them up to a department. So technically I wouldn't be able to use the time clock yet unless I was assigned to a department. But it was a success message. I'm good to go.